Yo, what's good, my people? It's your boy, Big Chris, aka the Compton Animator, and I'm here to give you people another WWE review. So, tonight was the what was it? I'm tripping. The TLC pay-per-view for 2013. The first thing I'll talk about right here is the build up to the pay-per-view. You had basically the main build came from the unification match that they were planning to happen at the pay-per-view. We heard about this right at the end of Survivor Series pay-per-view, and then they basically built that up. You had the Wyatt family and CM Punk and the Shield and Daniel Bryan have a kind of build up together at first. Then it turned into the Wyatts versus Daniel Bryan and the Shield versus CM Punk. You had a little bit of seeming like a breakup parts of the Shield going there. A lot of good matches during the build up between the Rhodes family and some other tag teams that were put together in the Real Americans, who were looking hot during this whole build up period. And what else? Also, you had some stuff with AJ Lee and Natalya, but the problem that came from there is that they pushed AJ Lee down in order to push up Natalya, and it wasn't like, pushing her down in a way of, making her heel, showing more of her heel side, more of just not showing anything from her, just so she looks like she's doing a bunch of nothing. And I'll talk about that before that match. But yeah, it was an okay build up. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was a short build up, yes, you could say that, but I thought it was an okay build up towards this pay-per-view. We kick off with the pre-show, and you have your round table with Josh Matthews, Mick Foley wearing a Santa Claus hat. You know how he loves Christmas. Booker T and The Miz. They're pretty good at the at this. They're all three of them are good on the mic, and just basically talking about the matches and stuff like that. You know how good they are doing that, so it was nothing wrong with them. One of the first big things in the pre-show actually was the Shield cutting a promo, and they basically, the promo was putting themselves up, but also putting CM Punk down, saying that they're iron strong and that, nothing can separate them, nothing can beat them. And CM Punk, even though he's so-called best in the world, is basically nothing to them. He can't break their will, he can't break them. So after that, we got an attack from Kofi Kingston on The Miz. During this whole pre-show, The Miz was talking shit about Kofi Kingston, basically, saying a bunch of shit about him and stuff. And, with every match or every segment that came up, he always brought something up about Kofi Kingston. So Kofi, I guess, heard it in the back and came out and basically slaps the shit out of The Miz. And they tumble for a minute. Then Mick Foley and Booker T come and break them up, and Booker T's yelling, "This is not the place" at that time, and telling them that they need to break up. So, also we have we're in Houston, Texas for the night, and there's a hot Houston, Texas crowd here. And the first match we get is Fandango versus Dolph Ziggler, and you get Fandango, who comes out the ring with Summer Rae. He cuts a quick little promo talking about how the Texas Lion Dance ain't shit, and he's way better than it. So it was a quick promo just showing, his character a little bit. I kind of like that they did that with him, that it wasn't just them throwing him and Ziggler into a match real quick, and it kind of got the crowd, who was already on Ziggler's side, even more on Ziggler's side. So that was a good thing right there. It was a pretty quick match. We had a commercial break in between the match, and Ziggler and Fandango was, both up and down during the match. It wasn't any crazy spots here or anything like that. It was usual Ziggler, usual Fandango here. Fandango goes up on a rope to, I guess, do the leg drop on Ziggler. Ziggler goes up to counter it, and then Summer Rae hops on the apron and distracts Ziggler, and Ziggler looks at her and gets pushed down by Fandango, and Fandango hits his big leg drop on Ziggler and goes for the win, gets the 3 counts, and Fandango comes out with the win here. I predicted Ziggler to come out the win because I think it would lead him into a bigger push, but with Fandango getting the win here, hopefully it adds some storyline with a Ziggler and Fandango feud, which I would kind of like to see. I think that would be a cool little feud for both of them to build their characters up more, build them up to a higher mid-card level and stuff like that, and give them something for a good match, probably at Royal Rumble, or at Elimination Chamber or whatever. Just get them, both of them, into something, not just general matches alone. Also, Summer Rae was looking real good here, so she's a hot little blonde. So we have that. And next is the start of the pay-per-view. We get CM Punk versus The Shield on a 3-on-1 handicap match. The match kind of starts off slow. It was slow, but CM Punk was very technical here, running out the ring and stuff like that, and basically laughing at The Shield and saying that he's smarter than them in a kind of way. And the announcers were saying that he's kind of like Jerry and The Shield. He's kind of like the Tom and Jerry mouse, and the Shield is like the cat, but usually the cat gets a hold of the mouse and stuff like that. And what else happened? And I think CM Punk kind of gets a good mix of stuff happening on them at first, but the Shield gets control of the match, and at one part CM Punk gets thrown out of the ring, and Roman Reigns is going for a spear on the outside on CM Punk. CM Punk dodges the spear, and Roman Reigns flies over the announcer's table and hits the wall and hurts his eye in the process. So he's having eye problems getting back into the ring before a 10 count. And he gets back into the ring. CM Punk goes for the eye automatically and starts, rubbing his arm into his eye and pulling at his eye and stuff like that. It was actually a pretty good look for him because Roman Reigns' eye was real red and stuff like that, and you could tell that he was actually grabbing at his eye and stuff like that, and just grabbing around his eye to irritate the skin and stuff. So it was pretty nice to see that. And once Roman Reigns got thrown on the outside and got tagged out, the doctors were outside helping him. All this leads up to CM Punk, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins fighting in the ring, going back and forth and stuff. And it ends up with Dean Ambrose getting ready to be put into the GTS. Him countering it. Roman Reigns finally gets back into the ring, goes for a spear, accidentally spears Dean Ambrose, and CM Punk throws Roman Reigns out of the ring, pins Dean Ambrose for the win, and the Shield loses this match. CM Punk gets the win here. So I thought it was a pretty fun match. It wasn't nothing special here, but it did kind of up the breakup of the Shield, and this actually being Roman Reigns' fault kind of made it a little bit better instead of being always Ambrose who's at fault at the stuff. So, it kind of gave more heel heat to the whole Shield stuff, and it put CM Punk up more, and it kind of gets me wondering whether or not they're going to continue this, or they may push CM Punk up into the title match. So, next we get a match with AJ Lee versus Natalya, and that match, AJ Lee cuts a promo before the match basically saying she's better than the whole WWE universe, and the WWE universe is shit, the Divas division is shit, and she's the only thing that's good in it. She basically calls everything else a joke and says that when she comes out with the win here, she's going to be the only one laughing. This was basically the first promo we heard from AJ since Survivor Series, I would say. And the biggest problem with this is the last few weeks they have been pushing AJ down to pull up the other divas. Basically what I mean by that is they keep her quiet, don't let her wrestle, don't let her do much of moves inside the ring, have Tamina do most of the wrestling, have, AJ Lee just skip around the ring, have her do a lot of taunting and stuff like that, and not really show her doing anything much, which makes her look more heelish in a way, but it's not in a good way because we don't hate her. We just think, if for people who do like her, and like her as a heel, they just look at it as, WWE's punishing her, when they're not punishing her. They just putting her down to put up the other divas so they can have a good divas match. And it's kind of a backhanded way of doing things, and it's not something I like a lot, So the match itself, surprisingly, the crowd was very hot for this. The crowd was hot for Natalya coming out. They was hot for AJ Lee coming out. Both of them got cheers and boos. It was a strong match here. Natty was strong, very strong here, doing a lot of power moves and stuff like that, trying to get AJ into submissions, throwing AJ against the ring wall and stuff like that. She wasn't afraid of Tamina here at all either, which showed her, as a strong face. So that was pretty good. What else? Oh, AJ used a lot of heel tactics here. Even having Tamina kind of distract Natalya at one point. Also, AJ Lee was countering out of a lot of Natalya's moves, so it gave her. It was a pretty good match, I thought here. Both of them were a lot of back and forth. AJ Lee, even though a smaller girl, used her size to wiggle around Natalya and get her into headlocks, get her pushed against the corner and stuff like that, to basically wiggle out of her submissions and stuff like that. The match ends with Natalya trying to go for a sharpshooter, AJ Lee pulling her hair and pulling her into a roll up, which I thought was okay. It adds some heel heat for AJ Lee with it just being a roll up and AJ Lee pulling her hair and stuff like that. So I like that, and AJ Lee ends up getting a win here, which I thought they were probably just going to take the belt off of AJ Lee to try to push up the other girls. But to me, hopefully this shows them that people can like Natalya. Natalya's getting chance during the whole night. So, people can like Natalya. They just got to give her the, the push that she needs, And, she doesn't have to cut promos. Have AJ Lee cut the promos. She just have to be the face, have to try to get the crowd on her side, say, face-like things and stuff like that, and she'll be cool, say how, use her family in this, let Bret Hart come out with her or something like that, let her talk about her lineage and say that, she's been fighting all this time to get the belt back, and this girl, AJ Lee, is pushing her down, and, she's, make her the underdog. That's all you gotta do. It's easy, don't try to put down one girl to bring up another one. Make them both strong and make them go against each other. And I will actually like to see another match with them too, because I think that they can put on a good match. They put on a pretty good match here. AJ Lee comes out with the win. Next, we get Damian Sandow versus Big E Langston for the IC title. And that was a Divas titles match, as you should know. Sandow came out to the ring with a new t-shirt that says I, and it had the greater than sign U. So that was a pretty nice little shirt. I probably might have to cop that. He cuts a promo basically shitting on all the hillbillies in the crowd and talking about how their words are stupid basically, and saying they should be taken out the lexicon, and that Biggie Langston should be taken out because Sandow's going to beat him for the belt. So we get an aggressive match here. A lot of back and forth here. Sandow's very aggressive here. Lots of strikes from Sandow, but you get a lot of power moves from Big E. Big E's fast here too, so a very technical Sandow as well. So it was a pretty aggressive match. Another match where I would have loved to have seen some promos being cut in the weeks heading up here to this, because I think that both of these guys would have worked well promoing off of each other, and I think that would have been better than just them holding up the belt against each other at the end of a couple of matches. So yeah, Big E kind of gets the control of the match at the end, gets Sandow does his straps thing, the crowd goes nuts for that, and then gets Sandow into the big ending, hits it, and gets the win and retains the belt here. So that was a pretty good match right there. It was kind of fast and by the numbers, but I thought it was pretty cool for what it was. After that, we got a backstage segment with Randy Orton and Vince McMahon comes and shake his hand and stuff like that. They talk about The Miz and Kofi Kingston and how they're going to be in a match tonight, in a DQ match, a no DQ match, going against each other tonight. And I forgot to talk about this, but at the beginning of the night, what's his name? Stephanie and Triple H come out and they talk about the main event and finally say what the name of the belt's going to be, and it's going to be called the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And saying, they're proud of this and this is going to be a history match and stuff like that. So next we get a WWE Tag Team Championship match, and it's a fatal 4-way elimination match. I didn't even know it was an elimination match because they didn't really even talk about this on SmackDown or nothing like that. I think they said it once, and I thought it was just a regular Fatal 4-Way match. So I found out like once somebody got eliminated that it was an elimination match. So that was a pretty surprise. So with this match, it kind of started off pretty slow. And this is kind of a tribute to Curtis Axel and Ryback. Their charisma wasn't getting over here. The crowd was hot for Dusty Rhodes and Cody and the Big Show and stuff like that here. I mean, kind of hot for the Big Show. You had Big Show was getting a lot of chance for doing his hand slaps on to Curtis Axel. I think no, it was Ryback, and a couple other things happening there. But they Curtis Axel and Ryback end up getting eliminated here, and surprisingly after that the match got hot. You get the Real Americans coming in, and they're basically beating up on Goldust the whole time. You get a Cesaro swing on Goldust here and stuff, and both Jack Swagger and what's his name, Cesaro was beating the shit out of Goldust here and stuff like that. They knocked Cody Rhodes down so Goldust couldn't get the tag, and at the point of time the Big Show actually helps out by throwing Swagger, I'm sorry about these names, a lot of people in this match, throwing Swagger into the apron and stuff like that, and getting into the ring and basically knocking out both Swagger and Cesaro and getting the pin here. And getting the pin here and basically eliminates the Real Americans there. So it got pretty good once that happened. Then Big Show lets Goldust get up and kind of helps him up so they can start the match, and you get a continuation match with the Rhodes Brothers versus what I call Team Biggie Smalls with Big Show and Rey Mysterio here, and they have a pretty cool little end to the match right there. A lot of fast pace, a lot of good moves. You get a double suplex with the Rhodes Brothers onto Big Show. You get some attempted 619s here by Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio's wiggling around and doing hurricanranas everywhere and shit like that. The match ends with Cody Rhodes taking Rey Mysterio, flipping him into his finisher and doing the what's his finisher called? The Crossroads onto Rey Mysterio, and the Rhodes Brothers ends up getting the win here. And all four men raise each other's hands and celebrate with each other in a good match. So yeah, crowd was hot for this match and stuff like that, and it was a pretty good match here. So after that, we get a primetime players who are backstage with the Brawling Buddy toys, and they're trying to fight each other. Then what's his name? Great Khali comes out and with a Brawling Buddy. Then somebody else comes out with a Brawling Buddy, and they try to fight each other with the Brawling Buddies. I think it was El Torito and them, and Los Matadors and them come out, and then the two general managers comes out, Vicky and the other dude come out, and Kane comes out to kind of shoo them off and say, "What the fuck are you doing back here?" He takes the something that was kind of, I don't know if it's telling. He takes the Brodus Clay Brawling Buddy and slams it against Cena. So I don't know if that's saying that Brodus Clay is going to get a push soon here or what. But I don't know if it was just that. It was just just him doing that or what. But next we get a match with Brodus Clay versus R-Truth, another match that wasn't talked about going in before, but it did have some of a build up, so I kind of knew what was going to happen. A pretty quick match here. Most of the match was played to Brodus Clay beating up on R-Truth, and then Tenzai was like, Brodus Clay was kind of doing more heelish stuff and kind of going overboard with his heel things here and beating up R-Truth for no reason and not playing the face here. So Tenzai comes up and saying, "Dude, just go in and pin him. Stop bullshitting. Just stop trying to beat him up. We're not those type of guys. Just pin him." So Brodus Clay basically tells Tenzai that I'm better than you and to get out of my business and stuff like that. So Tenzai says, "Fuck it, I'ma leave." And then the fucking doctor say, "Fuck it, I'ma leave," and leaving Brodus Clay alone. So R-Truth goes, sees the distraction, goes for the roll up and pins Brodus Clay for the win, and you get a win by R-Truth here. Next you get a match with The Miz and Kofi. It started off as an interesting match. This is a DQ match. The crowd was chanting for tables and stuff, but the match ended up being nothing in the end. Nothing really DQ happened here but them tearing off the turnbuckle and the Miz hitting the turnbuckle. And then Kofi Kingston ends up getting the win here. The crowd even booed this match. So, what looked to be a DQ match was basically nothing than a regular match that they've been having for the last few weeks. So next we get Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatt family. Now, this match right here, man, this is a really, really good match right here. Daniel Bryan comes to the ring, Wyatt's family comes to the ring, Bray Wyatt's on the outside of the ring here. Not a lot as far as move wise, it was a typical Daniel Bryan move set in a typical Luke Harper and Luke Harper and Eric Rowan move sets. But, they perfected it and did it off nicely, got the crowd into the match. What else? It was a lot of fun stuff happening in this match. You got once the Wyatt family started getting in control, Bray Wyatt, who was sitting on the outside in this rocking chair, comes in for the tag and basically, starts slamming Daniel Bryan and does this one kind of suplex where he throws him. That was pretty nice. And then he falls to his back on purpose and just does that little crab walk, backwards crab walk to Daniel Bryan. The crowd chants, "This is creepy." So that was it. And during the whole match, Bray Wyatt was yelling at Daniel Bryan, saying, "You should join us. I gave you so many chances to join us. We could be something," and stuff like that. He even reaches out his hand to Daniel Bryan at one point of the match and to say, "Shake my hand and just join us." And Daniel Bryan kicks his hand out of the way and stuff like that, and they continue the match. And it ends with Daniel Bryan, with Bray Wyatt, just getting pissed off about that, and they're going all four of them going back and forth and stuff like that. And it ends with Daniel Bryan getting Luke Harper and Eric Rowan thrown out of the ring, throwing them out of the ring and stuff. And then Daniel Bryan goes in and tries to get Bray Wyatt, but Bray Wyatt ends up reversing it for his sister Abigail, and Bray Wyatt comes out with the win here. I like very much that Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family win here. It kept Daniel Bryan real strong in this match, but it also made the Wyatt family even stronger, and they looked perfect in this match. Before, and like the match with Miz and the match with Kofi, Bray Wyatt wasn't, that great, but, once he got into a match where he can do where he had some, promos that came before it, and where he set up a lot of good stuff here in the match. This was a perfect way to do this match. And it also made Daniel Bryan still look strong because, he faced 3 guys here. So he just lost to the odds. He didn't actually lose to the people. He just lost to the odds here. So, it was a really good match here. And I think the best match of the night to me. So, yeah, that was really good right there. Next, we get the title unification match with John Cena and Randy Orton. Also, I want to talk about that Vince McMahon came and shook John Cena's hand in the middle of the pay-per-view as well. So he shook Randy Orton's and he shook John Cena's hand during his pay-per-view, and basically showing that they just want to see a good match and see whoever wins. With this match, like I said, the build-up was okay. The best thing that happened was the end of the Slammy Monday Night Raw this week. That was the best thing that happened to build up to this match. The biggest problem here, though, is that technically, physically, this match was good. You had them doing the slams, using the tables, using the chairs. Randy Orton used handcuffs in a part of this match. Cena hit Randy Orton in the head with the stairs and even kind of cut Randy open up a little bit. And he was showing like a very little bit of blood, but it was a real cut. It was a real cut that he got shown open. You had a lot of good stuff in this match, things that would be good only if we haven't seen these same things over and over and over again from these same 2 guys in these same type of matches. It's we've seen them do these same type of things before, where Cena gets handcuffed. We've seen that Randy Orton did that to Cena before. Cena hits him with chairs. We've seen that. Cena puts him through the tables. We've seen that. Randy Orton hits him with chairs. They had a ladder match, I believe, probably before. They had a cage match before. They had a Hell in a Cell match before. We've seen a lot between these guys. To me, the one thing that was missing from this is the heart and the personality. There was no heart to this match. It was just by the numbers, hardcore tables, ladders, and chair match. It wasn't like any of you was worried about whoever was going to win here, because when they walked up a ladder, both of them had ample time to get up the ladder. They just played it off. And usually, these type of matches are great for a, tag team match or a triple tag team match or something like that, where, somebody can come out of nowhere and knock somebody off a ladder. In a general ladder match, it's done better because, you don't have the tables and all the other stuff there, but you do got, ladders and stuff like that. And, it just works better when it's just two guys in one ladder. And, them just fighting in a regular ladder match. But also, it has to have heart to it. It has to have something there besides just them doing a match. Like I said, the match was good. Yes, it had all the stuff there. They threw out all the toys. They threw out all the tricks at each other. Even pulled up the ring mats and stuff. I mean, the outside mats and stuff to expose that and get handcuffs out and stuff like that. He threw the handcuffs threw the keys in the crowd and stuff. It was, I'm not trying to be like, oh, Cena sucks, or oh, Randy Orton sucks. I'm just saying how I feel. It was no heart, I felt. Unlike the Daniel Bryan and Wyatt family match, where it was character there. I felt something from all the guys in the ring. Unlike, with the CM Punk and the Shield match, I felt something there with all of them. There was character there. Even the tag team match with Big Show, all of those guys that were in that match were older guys, Rey Mysterio, Big Show, and Goldust, Those were guys that we've seen a lot, And that was still a lot of character and heart in that match, and ended up being a really good match as well. And it had some new guys in there through the mix as well. Here, it was just, a lot of stuff done, just none of the heart there. And, it kind of, did nothing for it. Cena gets thrown off the ladder. He's handcuffed. He takes the rope with him. He basically undoes the rope and tries to go up to get the belt and knock Randy Orton down, but Orton gets him by the ropes and stuff like that, pulls him and throws him into a table, so where he knocks himself out basically on the table, and Orton goes up and pulls down both belts. Orton's your new WWE World Champion, and the World Heavyweight Champion, that's what they're calling it. And like I said, I have no problem with Orton being this. He's the heel, yes. But if there was something that was fresh to this, they said, oh, it never happened before. We've seen this type of match before. We've seen the belts being unified before. It was just a bunch of things that we've seen before on the BP pay-per-view this time, nonetheless. And, but other than that, to me, it was a pretty okay pay-per-view. It was a solid pay-per-view. I think a little above average, if I would say. I would give the pay-per-view a B all around, Besides the main event, you had a okay pre-match, a good match with CM Punk and the Shield, a good match, actually a good Divas match with AJ Lee and Natalya, a pretty fun Intercontinental Championship match. You had a good fatal 4-way elimination tag match for the Tag Team Championships. You did have filler in there with Brodus Clay and R-Truth, even though it told story, it wasn't really nothing good to the match, and the crowd wasn't that much into it. And you had a horrible match with The Miz and R-Truth, The Miz and Kofi Kingston, which didn't really have anything to it. And then you had a very good match with Daniel Bryan and the Wyatt family, which had a lot of character, a lot of heart, and a very good wrestling in there as well. And then you had the main event, which was a okay match, just without the heart and without the, the character that we wanted to see out of this type of match. Vince McMahon and Authority came out and raised Randy Orton's hand and stuff like that, and John Cena looked at it from the ground, just kind of pissed. Overall, like I said, I'll give this pay-per-view a B. I thought it was okay pay-per-view, a little bit above average, probably a B minus at the least. I'm kind of shooting more towards a B minus here. But it has some good stuff in there, but the main event just kind of left me dry, just like Randy Orton's promos leave me. They left me dry. So thank you for watching. Like I've been saying, I'm working on some animation stuff to put in these videos, so there should be some fun stuff coming up soon. I know this is a long 30-minute video, but it's the pay-per-view. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't. So yeah, all my contact information is down in the description. Thank you for watching. Peace.